Hey, folks, welcome to the Friday program of the Political Nooner Ghost Town Politics with your host, Rachel Scose, that's moi, and Blake McKenzie, the wonderful Blake McKenzie. Blake, always a pleasure to have you in with us here, bringing insight. And we got so many stories. Let's start right off. Well, there's from the sublime to the ridiculous is really, we're running the full gamut of headlines today. I guess one of the big stories. I'm not going to play any clips on this, but unless you're under a rock. But the big story, one of the stories we're following, it's official. Don Lemon screwed himself by being on video, admitting his intent to storm a Minnesota church. It violates the FACE Act. It's called Operation Pull Up, says Don Lemon. And we do the operation. You'll see it live. It's a surprise. I can't tell you where. So here he is in advance. So it's premeditated. They were planning on going in, doing a quote operation pull up. On the surface, that doesn't look good. So what they did is it's really interesting how this unfolded. It went to a judge. What do you call those things? A magistrate in Minnesota, lowest level. The magistrate refused to do anything. They took it to a higher court. Higher court refused to do anything. They took it to an appeals court. The appeals court in Minnesota refused to do anything. So the DOJ did an end run and convened a grand jury. And the grand jury found, and it's, we know how grand juries work, the threshold's low. So they were able to convict him through the grand jury, indict. He's not convicted, but he is indicted by the grand jury. So he's got to surrender himself. He was planning to do the Grammys. He was in Los Angeles for the Grammy Awards. So the Grammys, can you imagine the speeches at the Grammys? Oh. Just the leftist. I mean, nobody can watch that shit anyway. And I haven't watched any of those.
Does anybody watch it anymore? Really?
Their numbers are always down. Nobody watches that shit
ever
anymore.
Since Ricky Gervais basically ripped them to shreds.
Well, that was the Golden Globe. Ricky Gervais made his world famous, evisceration of the elite, the Hollywood elite, for the Golden Globes. But it extends to the Oscars, the Tony Awards for Broadway, all these awards. It's a club. It's exclusive. You and I aren't in it. And they give themselves prizes for doing their thing. But it's all political. So now you're going to get if Don Lemon, because he's been arrested, all these idiots coming up, Green Day for best punk, neo-punk.
Maybe they'll wear a lemon badge. It'll be a little lemon.
Everybody have a little lemon will be the symbol. Very good marketing there, Blake. Wolfie and Steve, we love you guys. Welcome to the show. Thank you both for being here. Howdy. We love you both. And we got Wolfie Seuss out. Just doing a kind of a doctor visit, but everything's fine. She's just kind of routine stuff she's getting done. Okay, so Don Lemon, Blake, your thoughts on Don Lemon and what do you think? Is this guy going to Jussie Smollett? Is he going to walk like Jussie Smollett, a slap on the wrist?
Oh, of course. I mean, he is part of the establishment order that he's one of their mouthpieces. He does the work, marching orders. Again, he's a low-level guy. He's just a media personality. He's one of the hired guns out in the field to drum up problems and create misinformation or disinformation campaigns and propaganda against the people. So he's been doing this for a long time with CNN. He knows the game. He's a Democratic operative. He'll get a slap on the wrist at best. But I'm sure he'll be hiding behind his freedom of the press. And I'm sure his argument will be that, he wasn't told where they were going. He was just told, I'm a media following this group of protesters and they invited us to come along. And I was just journaling what was happening. Yeah. And I'm sure that's exactly his argument. And you know what? If they can prove that he was involved, so maybe they got some evidence and signal. And maybe they got some stuff through maybe if they can find where he was actually collaborating with them on this, that's where he might.
Well, he called it operation.
He'll be more than a slap arrest. But they may have told him that. They might have told him.
He called it an operation. So I think that is telling. The fact that, at least he
Yeah,
himself labeled it an operation that I'll reveal more later, so it's premeditated. They
exactly.
knew what they were going to
Oh,
do.
for sure. But I'm just saying he's going to argue he didn't know where they
Oh
were
yeah,
going. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, he's
so
he's going to
hopefully they
argue,
got the
I'm in
evidence.
integrity. I'm the press. I'm Walter Cronkite.
Now, I don't think the grand
unassailable.
jury would waste their time if it was on that area. So they must have something more concrete. And even if he did,
Well, you hope, right?
again, he's. We talked about the other day the capos and the captains, within this corrupt
Yeah,
regime of Democrats, globalists, rhinos, that are trying to fight back on controlling the outcome of where America goes.
yeah.
We knew this was coming. They're trying to do the Podesta plan. They're trying to drum up civil war. I'm sure Trump is aware, and he's got good people around him that they're trying
Yeah,
to get their Kent State moment. They're trying to line up their martyrs.
correct.
And, we've got a recent one where some lady ran into a car, and you could tell she ran into a car, and like they're literally hurling their bodies into things to purposely try and create
Agitate.
somebody
Yeah,
to get hurt or killed. And they don't care
yeah.
if somebody has to die to make their
That
case.
came out in their signals. They put out. They said basically this is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Kind of the Ohio State moment. Yeah, I don't have the footage of what is the guy's name, Preddy or so, that was shot and killed.
Yeah.
Further evidence came out on him about 12 days ago or so. He was seen kicking the rear light out of a nice vehicle. So that's not an observer. That's violence. It's violent to destroy public property. It's violent even if you disagree with somebody politically. You're not legally allowed to go break in their property. Does it justify the guy getting shot? No. But does it mean that he's an innocent angel of a man? No. In fact, it points the exact opposite. The guy was a protester, a professional by all accounts. And, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And that's it. I had one of my viewers unsubscribe, longtime viewer, on my other program unsubscribe because, because one of my idiot pals brought up the whole political thing on a non-political show. And, they're all mad. Like they're all so gaslit by the lamestream, the legacy media, that you can't reason with them. They're yelling, they're shouting. You go, well, hold on, wait a sec. And one of the guys brought up, this Epstein thing. They said the whole thing in Minnesota is because Trump isn't moving on Epstein. I said, well, Trump, and I even got the evidence and played it on Grok AI. I said, has Trump released, any of the information on Epstein, or did he okay and release it? And the AI responded, said, yeah, Trump it wasn't an executive order, but he wrote a new law, basically. Congress has the right to put law, but basically put it down where he wanted everything out that they have. He signed off on everything. So today, the FBI, for their part, came in and announced they're doing it, breaking the DOJ is releasing 3 million pages of Epstein documents today. 3 million. 2,000 videos, 180,000 images for Dag Todd Blanche. Anybody want to guess how many times Bill Clinton's name is going to come up? So
that should be a bet. They should run that in Vegas.
Yeah, well, I mean, what are the odds, right? So let's play the clip. We'll go large here and give it a play. Better go back to the beginning. Here we go.
Today we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. In total, that means that the department produced approximately 3.5 million pages in compliance with the Act. Just a quick note about the videos and images. The 2,000 videos and 180,000 images are not all videos and images taken by Mr. Epstein or someone around him. They include large quantities of commercial pornography and images that were seized from Epstein's devices, but which he did not take or that someone around him did not take. Today we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and
Okay. So there's that. So already the Krasenstein brothers are starting to post comments about Trump and Trump's involved in all this. This is, of course, the cry of the left every time they talk about it. Like I say on my show, I had one guy tell me, oh, this is all a distraction from Epstein. Well, here we go, 3 million files. Trump's name is in them. New Epstein documents include the name of Donald Trump from random people making accusations, the NTOC tip line. People are posting these deceptively, editing out the most important part. In all of these cases, the information was deemed secondhand or invalid. These entries are details of calls made into the NTOPC tip line. The third and fourth columns represent the responses made in follow up to the accusations made. In all the cases, the information was deemed secondhand or invalid. The link, however, went down. Justice Gov Epstein files. So, they're all there. On my news release, Epstein files show Bill Gates contracted an STD and asked Epstein to give him antibiotics to his wife, Melinda Gates. It's true, that is in there. We'll address that as well. But I want to talk just very briefly about POTUS.
Yeah.
So Trump's got a lot of enemies. The left is weaponized it. We had, Piss Gate, the Russia Gate situation. They've tried to smear Trump left, right, center.
Yeah.
Nothing has been able to stick. If they had anything, they wouldn't need the Steele dossier. They wouldn't have to go to these fabricated, problematic Crossfire Hurricane, all this kind of nonsense. Trump's innocent. They got nothing.
Yep.
But to his credit, Trump's released it. And like Trump said, it's a hoax. He knows all about these false discredited things. But what happens, of course, the left uses it to smear him, even though it's already been discredited. So we have to go through it, something, more kind of nonsense to kind of work through. But you got nothing. If you got something, charge him, lock him up. He's a criminal. But if you don't, shut the fuck up and shoulder in behind truth, patriotism, and the American way. Yeah. So that's my thoughts. I agree completely that it's been discredited. If they had anything, I think they would have got him years ago. If they thought anything was there, Biden's administration, did Biden like Trump? Who was president? Did Biden have the power under his authority? Could anything have been done? Leaked? Could we have leaked something? Even if you didn't have Congress or the Senate, maybe get one of your people just to leak. Maybe James Comey would have been open to leaking something. I think James Comey would have been. Come and sue my ass, Comey, if you don't think so. If you got the integrity not to leak something. Adam, just give it to Adam Schiff. He'll leak anything. The guy should be wearing Depends. He leaks so much. So your thought, Blake, on the whole idea of the Epstein, the releasing 3 million documents. One last thought before I do go to you. I just want to say briefly about the Bill Gates situation. If you read the document, I read through some of it, I got the gist. Basically, it's a letter from Epstein to Gates, and he's strong-arming Gates going, do you want me to keep quiet about you having an STD and trying to slip a Mickey to your Melinda Gates in the form of an antibiotic to take care of the STD you got from Russian girls? So that's Epstein strong-arming Gates over a financial deal. It's blackmail, really, is what he was doing. But that blackmail letter's in there. So, is it true? Maybe. But does it look good? No. But it was Epstein strong-arming Gates. It's not Bill Gates coming out and admitting it. Hey, I need some help. If it had been Gates, I'd say you got a real good case against Gates. In this case, you're listening to Epstein, and it's Epstein's accusation of Bill Gates. So if you do see that story floating across X platform or any other social media, bear in mind that it's really the claim of Jeffrey Epstein. It's not Gates saying it. It's Gates claiming, or it's Epstein claiming Gates said it. Okay? Important distinction. Blake, take it away.
Wow.
Yeah, really. 3 million.
I'm going to try and take this up at the 50,000 foot view, because that's where I think you have to go with this.
Yeah.
You've got all these moving parts going on right now. And you got Epstein over here. You've got Minnesota riots over here. But, you've got election fraud stuff that's coming out. You've got all this stuff. So I picture it more like this massive battlefield. These are battles within battles, right?
Yeah.
So you've got this massive projection. And this is what the left, or we call them the left, but they're not left in the sense we understand in the traditional left. The left you see on the ground, the purple hair, the crazies running around with their whistles and screaming at people.
Yeah.
Those are hired guns on the ground. They're like mercenaries of what we would call the left. They appear left, but they're not. They're just distractive agents that are working the grounds to drum up as much distraction from the reality of what's going on. Number one, multi-billion-dollar fraud. Multi-billion, maybe hitting into the trillions once they dig in nationwide, worldwide, trillions for sure, has been run into this fraud empire to run essentially psychological operations over the entire population, to control the vote, to manipulate the votes, to steal the votes with fake ballots and all that side. So you got this massive infrastructure of this crime empire. And it is a criminal empire. Let's call it for what it is.
Yeah.
This crime empire is multinational. It is not just America. It is a multinational crime empire. When you look at Epstein, he's a little cog in that entire empire. He was part of that whole thing. And I think the problem, as you described about Trump, is that they keep trying to project on Trump what they are.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So MAGA is being projected as fascist when they're the fascists. MAGA is being projected as the anti-liberal group when they are probably the more liberal group out of everybody, because they believe in individual rights and freedoms and protections and all that stuff, where the other group wants collective control, wants to strip people of their rights. So we're watching this massive projection. We're projecting on Trump over. Now they're saying he's trying to steal the election. You notice that? Projecting what they've been doing on him, right? So watch this whole Epstein story is, again, another mass projection attempt where they're trying to pin everything on Trump and focus on the distraction, right? Here's the distraction, because we don't want you looking over here on the fraud, election fraud. We don't want you looking over here on the multi-billion-dollar fraud that went on in Minnesota. We don't want you looking at it. So they distract. And how big this people needs to understand, like we were talking it off screen before we went live, but the markets are in turmoil today. There's a big war going on all at once. This is all happening at once.
Let's talk about the markets.
So, I saw it start to happen. We've talked about silver, the currency wars, but it all comes down to, the fear that the globalists who've been running the show for a number of decades here are losing their power. That power is changing. So we need to stop focusing on these little things. And I think Trump was right. Now I understand his perspective about Epstein when he said a long time ago, this is a distraction. He even said that. This is just taking people off the focus of what MAGA should be going towards. Look at the high road, take over the whole MAGA picture, and understand that we are in a war that hasn't gone physical yet, because that's what Podesta is trying to do. That's what the Democratic machine is trying to do. That's what the globalists are trying to do, is they are trying to do it on our ground in Canada. They're trying to do it in the US. They're trying to drum up a war. They want somebody to show up and fire guns. That's what they want. So this is where this is heading, because they know they're losing. They're losing on all fronts because they've been caught. They've been caught, and MAGA, which is not Trump alone. Trump's just the guy who's taken the leadership role of that to drive that home. But MAGA is the people who are fed up with this. They're fed up with the corruption. They're fed up with their rights being stripped.
Yeah.
They're fed up with patriots being labeled as racists, being labeled, fascists and all that. To walk around with your own national flag, you're called a fascist. How the heck did we get there? People need to understand this is a psyop at a global scale.
It's a color revolution, right?
Well, but it's planned.
Report, do we like to
we're in the middle of it. So all of this happening at once. This is happening. So they are throwing everything in the kitchen sink out there to distract, mass distraction, create fighting in the streets. They want the Proud Boys to show up with 10,000 guys and go beat up and shoot a bunch of protesters in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, there's a lot of patriots in this world right now who would love to go brawl.
Oh yeah,
in the
I mean,
streets right now,
tempting.
but we're the ones that are
tempting,
being
yeah.
told. And I'm hearing great people like Glenn Beck came out and said, "Listen, we need to be like Martin Luther King Jr., where we are the ones that don't pick
Peace
up and
will
fight.
overcome. Peace
We're
will
not
overcome,
to drive
yeah.
guns. We're not going to show up with guns and knives."
Correct.
They're the ones that are showing up with guns and knives, because we talked about the guy, what's his name, that got killed in Minnesota.
Yeah,
he was
Brett,
packing heat in the back, even though it wasn't illegal. Apparently he had a permit, but he had heat packed in his waist and a gun, and it was in his
Yeah, on
waist.
both occasions too. In the other video that where he's kicking the taillight out of the ICE vehicle.
And they've got their PSYOP running on all
Yeah.
the social media platforms to their supporters who are brainwashed, the NPCs, we jokingly call them.
Yeah.
But they're being told to rise up and hurt and beat up people and kill people. And they're all the language from the so-called quote unquote left. They're not left. Sadly, there's a lot of people I know that are caught up in this. I got friends that are posting on Facebook right now saying, if you're all my Maple MAGA people that I know, might as well, I'm disowning you. Get off my Facebook page. I don't want everything to do. You're all treasonous, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, do you guys understand who the real treason? You're being psyoped. You're projecting what your guys are
these
doing.
people doing this to you, Blake?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they've done it. Yeah,
So-
it's happening to me personally. I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you, because you're the only ones out there on Facebook screaming in people's faces. You did this through COVID. You did this through all this. You are the fascists. You are the baddies, folks. Stop pretending you're on moral high ground, but you are being driven through a psychological operation by very powerful people who you always claim you're fighting. You're going against the very people who are fighting for liberty and freedom when you should be aligning with them. If you believe in your individual rights, if you want to be a gay or trans or whatever you want to be in life, join the side that believes in individual freedom and liberty, not in the side of compulsive speech,
But they're getting gaslit so badly. Legacy media has just been criminal in gaslighting them all.
Well, they know that the empire that's running this, they have control over the algorithms with it. Why did they think they want to get them all off X and get them into Blue Sky? Right? They get them all into Blue Sky because they can control the message, where X is a free-for-all, right? It's kind of like ideas everywhere. It goes into the churn and it gets ground up by everybody. And
well, that's why it's so sufficient, right?
And then you got Blue Sky. They're like, no, let's move all of us to our brainwashed into the crowds. And this is classic Soviet style Marxist agenda, how you control the masses. And I just think this whole thing that's going up, and today the markets just blew up. And I'm like, this is economic warfare.
Yeah,
the globalists have taken it up into the next layer. So again, 50,000 foot view, watching all these pieces move on the chessboard. Trump, now that they try to blame today's market crash, the Dow Jones dropped 600 points at one point today. They're claiming they're trying to drive a market crash, right? This is exactly, they're trying to damage the economic recovery and strengthening of the United States and those countries that support the populist movement, that the people want to be free from the globalist tentacles that are around the world. So there's a massive market manipulation going on that started to happen overnight. I watched the silver market drop. Gold was starting to drop overnight. And I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah,
and then this morning, all of a sudden, they crash. So immediately the news rolls out and they're blaming Trump for it. What are they blaming Trump for? Well, they're saying because he wants to pick his pick for the Fed was going to be announced today. And it was Warsh. Sorry, I just want to get I don't really know. Kevin Warsh is the favorite of doing it. So this is the central core of our entire society's run based on money. who controls the gold, who controls money calls the shots. This is the tug of war globally right now. This is the battleground. Who runs the currencies runs the world. And this is what you notice. This is all happening all at once. And then today they try to knock them down with this. Okay, we're gonna. All it takes is the big globalist groups that have this massive amount of wealth, union pension fund money, all the leftist organizations they draw in, the Black Rocks, all that stuff. They start fucking around in the markets and they try to drive people out. And that's what this is. It's about an arm wrestle of epic proportions of what direction we're going in the world economically, and we're either going to go into this crony capitalist controlled system, or we're going to go to a free market system where the ideas of your business will compete based on people naturally buying it. And they're trying to break Trump here. They're trying to break him. Well, guess what? Remember GameStop? GameStop was a great mirror of what was to come, because that's when the people rose up. We're talking individuals banded together and say, we're not going to allow these globalists to manipulate markets and run shorts. The big central bankers have been trying to short the entire system with the rise of gold and silver. They've been trying to short it. They keep losing. They're using billions a day because they're shorting on its loss. So this is an attempt to short the market, much like George Soros shorted the currencies of the United Kingdom and other countries around the world, to do economic damage. This is economic warfare to an epic level.
Right.
And
so how does
but
Trump
look at today,
combat
it's
it?
bouncing back. So when we know about GameStop, a bunch of people got behind it and they said, let's stop these guys, let's hurt them. And average Joe Blow, little retail investors who have accounts all went out and bought GameStop. And it went up. I mean, GameStop was a dying
Business,
share.
yeah.
The business was like, because it was what they sold, video games, physical video games, and video games were basically going. It
A
was
lot
like
of it is downloadable
well, it was like
content.
DVDs and it was like it was a game store, right?
Yeah,
Where you could buy
everything you
games.
download everything now.
Now you download it all. It's like they're kind of like the old days of Blockbuster, right? It's kind of like,
that's
so
right.
let's save Blockbuster. Let's hurt these guys. So everybody invested in it, ran it up. Well, guess got in trouble in the end. The shorters lost their shirts, which was the big institutional investors. The retail investors fought back, which is like the global world of people, the average citizens getting in there into the fight, and they hurt them bad. So they changed the rules because of that, to rig the game again. So this is what we're seeing. The world is fighting back against these institutions. So MAGA worldwide is going back. And so today I was noticing the media had to keep changing their titles because they said the Dow Jones dropped 500 points and then it was 600 points. They kept changing their titles all through the day. Well, as we speak, the Dow Jones is up to 244. And now the headlines are all, well, it dropped 200 points. It dropped this. The fight is on. It is up, down today in the silver market. So it's really never a better time.
Long-term, Trump's economy is on fire, and the Dems have had to admit it. The pundits are having to admit it. Even over on CNN, I watched a CNN clip just the other day with a guy kind of going in. You can't argue with the results. The economy is doing exceptionally well. Gas prices are down. Trump said he'd bring them down. Egg prices are down. He said he'd bring them down. So, I mean, these are tremendous victories.
And that's exactly why they want to crash the market, because it affects the voter at the low level.
Yeah.
And that is the attempt. And the Fed, who controls the Fed, can also control interest rates. Interest rates plays on the inflation.
So we had Jerome Powell. Yeah, Jerome Powell refused to move and lower
he's under
interest
investigation.
Rates. He kept them the same. He is under investigation for political, because he's now become nothing more than a political operative of the left. It's recognized. Trump says he's going to be, last week, Trump said that guy's going to be gone by next week. Trump's predicting that Powell's going to be gone. Now, how can Powell be removed by the president? President does not have that authority. So what's going on with that, Blake? And does Trump have a successor or a guy picked to replace Jerome Powell?
Yes, he's got Kevin Maxwell Warsh. Relatively young guy, born in 1970. He's 1 year
Younger than me.
younger than me, 1 year younger than me.
Yeah.
Anyway, he is the pick. Warsh is currently the Shepherd Family Distinguished Visiting Fellow of Economics at Stanford University's Hoover Institution, scholar lecturer at Stanford Graduate School of Business, member of the Group of 30, a member of a panel of economic advisors of the Congressional Budget Office, and former steering committee of the Bilderberg Group. Well, that's interesting. So he's tied to the former Bilderberg Group, was the secret group that became part of the public side of the public side was World Economic Forum. He has conducted research in the field of economics, finance, and has several private and public companies. But anyways, he's a pick, leading pick to take over for Jerome Powell.
What do you think about this guy? You don't know much about him.
I don't know about him. I have to be honest. I haven't researched, but apparently it's the media is claiming Trump's pick is the reason why the markets went into turmoil today.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that could be a good thing.
Yeah, it says on the president's short list
that he's the guy you want if the markets are reacting with a hiccup.
Well, and I'm looking at this. There's people are going to kind of squirm when I give the president's short list. So, of course, these are given to the president. Here's some people to look at. So, on the president's short list, we have Warsh, Fed Governor Chris Waller, who is the BlackRock chief, fixed income. Rick Ryder, and the National Economic Council director Kevin Hassett. These were kind of the pick. So the odds are on Warsh to win the nomination rose 95% on Friday after Bloomberg reported Trump administration is getting ready for the president to put him forward. However, what's interesting is Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina, has threatened to block whoever Trump nominates until the criminal investigation into Chair Jerome Powell, launched by the Justice Department, is resolved. I'm not sure why you couldn't continue to investigate him, even if he's no longer the chair.
Oh, I got a leftist to kick in the nuts. Hang on. Build a hamburger. Hey, listen there, Herc. Did you learn how to spell at the Leering Center? Is that where you got your spelling from? Because it's questionable. Okay, let's move on. Right now, Canada's got the Conservative Party, which are our Republican Party, right? It's our version of the Republican Party if we have one. In Canada, the Conservatives, they're kind of, the nationalists and all this sort of thing against liberalism. Traditionally, they aren't running on pro-abortion and restricting LGBTQ dogma. But we got this story breaking. Tim Uppal, a Conservative MP, just voted to allow non-citizens to vote in internal elections for the Conservative Party of Canada. And there's one of our guys, Tim Uppal, wherever he's from. The policy promises state that people who do not have Canadian citizenship should not be allowed to vote in party nominations. This would prevent Punjabi, Sikh, and other ethnic groups from taking over the party. Tim Uppal, a Punjabi-born MP, voted no to the policy. So I guess what's going on here is they want these people from
anywhere
to be allowed to go for it and nominate. And this is, of course, the undermining. This is the manifestation of a post-nationalist stake. I think it's nonsense. And I got another one for you about the Canadian political situation with our Republicans. Same problem here. Canadians brutally ridicule Trudeau for playing Mr. Dress-Up, as they should. Are we supposed to ignore it when a Conservative leader does it? This is from the Dominion Society of Canada, a more right of center group than the Conservatives. How are there so many of these? And it's got one after the other. He's showing Poilievre playing dress-up with different cultures. There he is with a little blue hat. Here he is with a darker blue hat. Here he's got a purpley one. Here he is with a white one, another blue one. He's playing dress up all the time, right? And so that's a problem. And I think it's a problem as to why we don't have any alternatives. We don't have a Trump figure in Canada per se. We got some good people. We got real patriots. We've got some really wonderful people, but we don't have anybody with the charisma, the clout, and the following of a Donald Trump here in Canada. But what do you make of that, Blake, when you look at the Conservative Party when they're saying, hey, you don't even have to be a Canadian citizen to vote for representatives in that political party?
Well, did that post, because he began the annual general meeting in Alberta, I believe yesterday. So did that vote actually pass in favor of it, or did it get rejected? So that's kind of, if they're just pointing at one guy, I can understand, because I would be
Well, I
against
think
it.
the fact that it was put on the floor as a motion is
Yeah,
problematic. It shouldn't
that's
even appear.
to me, it's a nothing burger. But on that side of it, but on the reality of it, what you described earlier, the problem with it would be the easy argument. The problem with it is that non-citizens who are, if your political party wants to be serious, you got to prove you have no foreign influence. And that means that you could have foreign influence by literally opening up the door to anybody who's a non-citizen who happens to be on Canadian soil could show up, take out membership, and vote and change the direction of the party. So that means the Chinese Communist Party could show up with 10,000 Chinese
delegate,
supporters.
and you just pay it off to get her done.
Yeah, and you're done. You've got your guy in there. You call for a leadership review, and you remove the guy that you don't want in there. You put your guy in.
Yeah, and we know this has already occurred with the Chinese, with the corruption both in Canada and the United States.
I mean, my only concern is, like, we talk about the uniparty. Canada's very much a uniparty, but the Liberals and the Conservatives, clearly there is the Conservatives is the only side of the spectrum where we still have some normal people left. The rest are all lost. So I think if we're going to have any hope that you need a Trump-like character to rise up into the conservative movement in Canada, much like happened in the United States. Trump is a populist, right? He's a populist.
Yeah.
He's not a conservative. Let's call it for what he is. He's not a true conservative, true blue conservative that you would think of. Conservatives, but he does take some conservative angles, such as protectionist. Conservatives are known market protectionists. Liberals are traditionally, let's open it up to the world. Let's trade all over the place. We don't care. Where the Conservatives in Canada were, under McDonald, historically protectionists on trade, tariffs, excise taxes.
Yeah.
There was no, we got to remember, for everybody in this world, we didn't have income taxes until World War I and then World War II. There were temporary taxes launched to help fund war efforts, and they never went away. And how they got away with doing that is that we didn't have income taxes before, because the excise, we call them excise taxes here in Canada, they were basically tariffs. You would cost you money to bring money in. But even back in the late 1880s and 90s, the Liberals, when they came into power under, my mind's going blank here, Wilfrid Laurier, there was the whole free trade movement then between the U.S. We wanted, be able to trade freely between the two countries. And of course, the Conservatives fought it because they liked monopolies. And they were old Hudson's Bay Company guys.
Blake, in America, they have, for Herc, they've got their heroes fighting against Trump at every turn. Oh, wait, what's this? Breaking new leaks indicate Kamala Harris is caught drunk driving in Hawaii. Oh, no.
We've seen that movie here in BC 25 years ago.
Trouble for the Dems. What? There's more? What? Oh, no. Breaking former Colorado State Senator Sonia Jacques Lewis, Democrat, convicted of felony fraud. She's caught forging documents to dodge an ethics probe into her abusement treatment of staff. Former senator convicted of 4 felonies. Good luck with that. There are a bunch of criminals over there on the left, Blake. It's unbelievable. That's all you see. Drinking, driving. Thank God, America, you dodged a bullet from an alcoholic in the form of Kamala Harris, I mean, she's been seeing drugs. She is really the Elizabeth May of the Democrat Party. I mean, it's just shameful. So if they're not, causing fraud, they're driving around drunk. And of course, that is a felony as well. I mean, my God, you can kill people. Please, Kamala, seek help for your alcoholism.
Or do what our premier used to remember. Gordon Campbell got nailed for that, driving drunk in Maui.
Yeah,
he was our former premier of British Columbia, and they put out his photos from from the police file, and he's sitting there with this big smirk, drunk, and he got off scot-free. Put on crocodile tears, and he should have resigned. That was the end of BC having any sense of morality within its leadership.
Well, another big story that just broke, yesterday, was the raid on Georgia's election offices.
Yeah.
It went before a grand jury, and the argument is, the rationale being, is that they had enough information to convince a judge that there was a there, because they say, here's what we want. You have to write out, what are you there for? What are you looking at? Because Georgia had refused to turn over any of those files, any of the election results. And so they went there. They took away 700 boxes, apparently, that the Justice Department is going through. This is a state where Biden won only by 11,000. Of course, it's the home of Fannie Willis and a bunch of corruption going on in Georgia. It's very corrupt there. Raffensperger, all that. Of course, the infamous pipe break at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so problem after problem after problem. And now the FBI's got some documents. Maybe, just maybe, we're going to see a turning of the tape on that. Blake, your thoughts on the FBI raid on Georgia? Do you think there's a there?
100% there is, and I know that they wouldn't. The FBI wouldn't go in without evidence that there was proof of something, and they know there was proof. It was being covered up by the Democrats' former FBI, Comey and gang. All of them were part of that corrupt class that basically purposely distracted and kept people focused in on going after Trump and MAGA and allowing the election rigging to go on, even though there was evidence everywhere it was happening. Now the evidence is pouring out. They're getting after that. Apparently they still have to find there was obviously digital copies of these votes. Apparently they were erased. So maybe they've got control of some hard drives that they can pull some of that information back. But yeah, it's just, again, part of that larger view, the mass distraction that the enemies of freedom are going to try and distract you and looking at, oh, look over here. Here's Don Lemon being arrested and he's going to be a hero for their cause. Meanwhile, all these people are going to be shown as really corrupt people, part of this empire, a criminal empire that they stole and rigged elections. And there's just too much evidence out there. It's going to go into Maricopa County. It's in Georgia.
Have a good day, Herc. But please, be safe out there as you're destroying ICE property. Okay, just be careful. We don't want you gunned down.
Yeah, don't jump in front of vehicles and pretend you got hit.
Yeah. Oh, so that'll be Herc's claim to fame. Like, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of stories to cover. This is kind of a fun one. Here we go.
Yeah.
Just in, the first openly gay judge of Bexar County, Texas, just arrested on a felony, illegally handcuffing an attorney. Say what? And locking him in a jury box. Good God. Judge Rosie Speedy Gonzalez. What? Speedy Gonzalez, I guess it is. Leftism is a mental disease. Okay, what's the story here? Let's learn together.
This
one of the things that scares the shit out of you, Blake. Here we go.
Start this evening with the Bexar County judge on the other side of the gavel.
Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez faces multiple charges
Speedy
tonight, including a
Gonzalez,
second-degree felony. We just got her mugshot a few minutes ago. It's right here behind us. News 4's cameras caught the moment Speedlin Gonzalez walked into a courtroom to be indicted. Tonight, there are questions about what happens next.
News 4 San Antonio's Phil Sterling has been following the story for us all day. He joins us live with the very latest on the charges. Phil.
Now, County Court at Law Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez arrived here to the Cadena Reeves Justice Center to show up to a courtroom only feet away from her own, just down the hall. This right here behind me is her courtroom. We got a copy right here of the indictment of all the charges that were read to her, although it did give limited information as to what happened. At a county court, at-law judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez is in court, but not to preside over a case. She's here to be arraigned. She's been charged with 1 count of unlawful restraint by a peace officer or judge, a second-degree felony, and official oppression, a Class A misdemeanor. The Bexar County District Attorney filed.
So it's a case of entitlement gone crazy. I guess this attorney, she didn't like what the guy was saying. Maybe he was giving her a shout down. Anyway, she locked him up, I guess, and something she's not legally entitled to do. But it's a case of entitlement. She made headlines earlier because they had ordered her to take down her gay flag. She has gay paraphernalia on her robe. It's all over the place. In her defense, she did say, well, other judges are allowed to have like an Irish flag in the courtroom, these kind of other symbols, maybe a Christian cross. And I have to agree with her on that front line. Let's make it equitable across the board. If it's an American courtroom, it's no judge's private property or private office. It's the people's house. You got to respect it. So you may be Irish, but the people aren't. Every American from every background, everything. So
and the
that's in fairness to her, right? Go ahead.
I thought the headline of the story when you first showed it, it said they use the identity side of it. I know it's kind of thrown it back into the face of the left on that, but it says the first openly gay. Should that really matter? I mean, that shouldn't matter. Who cares? That comes into the who cares. I understand that there's this sense of retribution because they are the ones on the left who've been pushing the identity side of politics on everybody, and that's critical. So they're kind of throwing it back at them as openly gay judge, first openly gay. It's like, but in my opinion, that shouldn't even been in the headline. Who cares? You're just a bad judge.
I guess it's become from the right. It's labeled that way as feedback or pushback on another DEI hire. It could be argued that why is this person a judge in the first place?
Yeah.
Speedy Gonzalez, who could believe it possible? Everybody loved Speedy as a child. Okay, here's one, Blake. I have no idea what this is even about. We could be in real trouble here. Bruce can be quite a character. Our conservative MPs should have this yelled at them whenever they set foot in public. God knows what's going to happen here, Blake. Let's see what goes on.
Hey, awesome, a RPAN. Awesome, great, we need mass deportations now. Mass deportations, save Canada.
All right, so conservative MP run along there, and this guy's yelling mass deportations to an East Indian candidate. Blake, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know, because a lot of the East Indian candidates are real. They're Canadians too, so I don't. It's just stupid. If you want to, don't. It's funny though. The only thing I'd point out is you don't see this happening on the Liberals who have a lot of that. Like we talk about our justice minister who's trying to take away the guns from lawful Canadians, and he's basically got ties, and his background is a Tamil tiger. He's like a known terrorist organization, communist terrorist organization out of Sri Lanka, and he's the one who's telling us what guns we can own.
He's our gun guy, buyback program.
Yeah, they call him a squirrel. He kind of looks like a squirrel, but
he's cute. Yeah,
he's like a little squirrel.
Okay, let's take a look at this one, Blake. Is there a fraction of Canadian society more corrupt than First Nation chiefs? Well, that's quite the one. First Nation chiefs calling Alberta's premier to resign, accusing Daniel Smith of conspiring with separatists and violating treaty rights. Hope you have your bags packed when this referendum is defeated. I will gladly walk you to the border, says Walking Eagle. Let me try and stop this so we can play it loud. Okay, Blake, our chiefs are going to speak. Let's see what they have to say.
Smith and the UCP government do the right thing and resign immediately. Because from here on in forward, the road is going to get rocky and rough.
Daniel Smith has conspired with the separatists through Bill 14. The Premier changed the law after the court told her it was a breach of our treaties to proceed this way.
So Premier Smith and the UCP cabinet, I hope you have your bags packed, because when this referendum is defeated, I will gladly walk you to the border. Danielle Smith.
Okay, so our engines are not happy, Blake.
They're not all of them. Those are just the agitators that are paid.
I call them my cousins because, ethnically.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what do you think? Are they useful pawns in the system? I mean, aren't they part of the whole commie thing? We'll own nothing. They get all the land, and so it's a win-win under the current status quo.
Well, and
that America and Trump would take all that bullshit away from them and say, forget it, it's not happening there, coaches.
Yeah, well, I think the reality is that they don't even know who's in control, because there's a competition between the elected band members to the band councils who are elected versus what they call the hereditary chiefs. Those two entities are at odds. One's voted and elected by their members. One is a hereditary chief, a king, let's just say, or a noble of their people, that because historically has a lineage of control and thinks that they have a right to speak as well. So there's kind of like there's two different groups within the First Nations battling for power there, because most of you don't hear from the grassroots people. You never do. It's always these elites. And I'm talking about with even the First Nations, because when you go into into any of those lands, there's people that are no different than the kleptocracy we have in Ottawa. Those that are in power enrich themselves and their friends, while the grassroots gets nothing. They get breadcrumbs if they're lucky. And you'll see millions and millions and billions of dollars funded through these channels to the different Indigenous peoples, and very little of it gets down to the people. You see all of the leadership comes back with their $100,000 trucks. They've got the nice homes. They've got all this stuff, while the rest of the people live in squalor. And it's brutal, and it's a horrible system. The Indian Act in Canada should be scrapped, but you're right. There is a group that are on that funding scale, and that one chief that was doing most of the speaking there, he is known. I can't remember his name. He's been outed on X as a paid agitator. He gets funded by foreign lobby interests to cause trouble, and so a lot of the problems we're having in Canada, as well within the Indigenous communities leadership, is that the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, who has heavy foreign influence, has been utilizing land claims disputes to cozy up tight to get control of the resources of the land through, and much like the mob did with casinos on Indian lands. So I think this is kind of the same situation. They're caught in a tug of war. As I've been saying all along, the people, the grassroots people, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, I think once they come together will realize they're being scammed at a greater scale. And, as part of that great reset plan, that the deal is going to be made between large multinational corporations, the figurehead chiefs who get the payola and the royalties from all the mining and logging and resource extraction colony work. And that's what we've become. Canada is a resource extraction colony. The chiefs will own on title, but all the profits and control will be run by these massive asset management companies, massive multinational companies, while the rest of us won't have access to build our own futures on the land either, including the Indigenous people. Yeah, you'll get jobs. That's what you always hear. Well, we'll bring in jobs. There'll be thousands of jobs, good union jobs, this and job. We don't want jobs, folks. We don't want just jobs. We want opportunity. Big difference. We want to be able the freedom to think and decide what we want to do with our lives, not get jumped into a funnel and say, you are going to be a worker for the rest of your life, and you get to have a good job, work for that collectivist union, and the First Nations that are lands are on title, the new nobles of the North American Empire. Well, those nobles won't have any control of their own land anyways. They're just figureheads, much like a governor general who just gave herself a $400,000 raise. So, the kleptocracy is in full swing in Canada, and we see that at all levels. But yeah, it's a terrible situation in Canada, and it's being used to rip us apart. But there's some good Indigenous leaders out there, but they don't get the voice because the regime media doesn't allow them to get the time that they need to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I think they're useful pawns more than anything. And as you rightly point out, I think there's a lot of corruption in there. I was reading one report where one chief received millions of dollars from one of these globalist think tanks. So, it's nice to be you. Nice to be you. Okay, here we go. What do we got? Okay, this is a big one here, Blake. We'll end on our show on this one today. Just in, President Trump signs an executive order declaring a national emergency over Cuba and preparing tariffs on any country supplying oil to Cuba. Marco Rubio, no doubt, has his hand in this. Cuba is about to get utterly choked off. Trump and Marco are coming for Cuba. U.S., Gulf of America. There it is, Gulf of America. I love it. Cuba. Tricks of the trade and the announcement. So they're going to shut it down. Nobody can deal. No need to play the clip. But we knew it was coming. Cuba is now being choked off and pressure being applied by the president on Cuba. Is this the model going forward for Greenland, for Canada, for any part of any territory they want in the Western Hemisphere? Here we see the Monroe Doctrine in action. Blake?
Cuba is a different story, though. It is, and the reason being is because Florida has the I would say probably a bigger Cuban population than Cuba in a lot of ways, if you actually count the numbers. But they were the people that were chased out of Cuba, and their families escaped Cuba and created very prosperous neighborhoods and believed in freedom and liberty and the right to own property, the right to build your own business, the right to buy cars if you want. And you look at what the Soviets, the communists under Castro, and of course, we think our former prime minister may have some of those traits in him, but Justin Trudeau kind of looks a little bit like Mr. Castro. But I think Cuba is actually on the list for liberation. And Maduro is a little different. That was a liberation from the globalists, the Chinese, the control of the resources, get the narco control out of there. But Cuba is a different thing. Cuba has a lot of people there that are living in absolute poverty. And the funny thing is the left always points to them. You get Michael, what's that, Moore runs around showing,
Michael
taking
Moore,
people
yeah.
remember he took a bunch of people to Cuba to use their medical system to show just
how great it is, how everything is.
And all you have to do is walk one block off the staged area, and people are like in the streets with no work. They're struggling. They can't barely eat. They can only eat what's falling off the trees or what they can grow. The farmers are being forced to grow. Yeah. Cuba is ripe for freedom. And I think Rubio, being a product of Cuba, through his family roots and heritage, wants to see a free Cuba. And there's a lot of people who had their property stolen, and the leftists always trying to point, well, it was all run by the mob. It's like, you know what? It had nothing to do with just corrupt people. There was corrupt people. Yeah, you had a corrupt regime. But if Cuba could become a free country again, it would be a very powerful asset to the Monroe Doctrine, true, on that side of it. But to just free the people after how many years has it been now? 60, 65 years that they've been living under a communist regime that is oppressive. And the only way they make any money is by allowing Canadians and Europeans to build resorts and to drive some capital through there. But literally, the only vehicles they have are the vehicles from the 50s that they keep they have to fasten parts for it themselves in machine shops to try and keep these vehicles moving.
Novel. I mean, there's a certain beauty about it in some ways because of the the vintage aspect of those vehicles, those classic 50s vehicles, but obviously a bit out of sync when you think of modern sensibilities and where we are with self-driving Teslas, right?
There's a guy in I would recommend, I'll try to remember his name. He travels all over the world. He goes to unique places. He's on YouTube. He's a traveler, but he really gets into the guts of interviewing people at a local on the street. I can't remember his name. I think he used to be from San Francisco and all that. But anyways, he's gone back to San Francisco. He was talking about the collapse of San Francisco and how it's become a drug haven and collapse there.
Yeah, there's problems.
But he went to Cuba recently, and I watched he had a couple episodes in a row, and he goes through and he meets people in the
Do you remember the
small
name?
towns.
That looks like something I'd like to watch.
Santeri. Hold on a minute.
Anybody know this channel Blake's referencing? Let me know.
He's got like a couple million. He's got millions of people.
Well, later on your own recognizance, drop me a line through.
Yeah, I'll send you. It's a great. But he goes back. He's meeting all these people, and the people are great, right? They're super nice, but they're struggling. They're starving.
It's tough.
They're barely getting by. Stuff that does end up getting smuggled in that they can buy in the stores and stuff like that costs a fortune if you have the money. And literally, apparently, if you're in Cuba and you work at the resorts, you're not allowed to give them anything. And people have to sneak stuff to the staff. Like, oh, here's a fresh bottle of water from North America that's been brought in. They're not allowed to take it, apparently. So it's smuggled to them by the guests. It's quite a story listening to how this works.
Very sad, Blake. But
Cuba is a great country, great people, just a corrupt regime, much like Iran.
Decades.
Like Iran, same thing. Iran, murderous regime that needs to be removed. And I think this is, as you said, we talked about Trump's goal, freeing the West, the Western Hemisphere from these corrupt, because let's face it, that was all sponsored by foreign interests to put on America's borders nukes, as we knew from the missile crisis. The Soviets were involved in that. Now the Chinese, but it's funny. Venezuela was the only country supplying oil to Cuba. So cutting that off, what do they got left? Where are they going to get it?
Well, that was a big development. Yeah. So I know Trump knew that. So it was a strategic strike to get Maduro out. It was like taking a big zit out with a laser beam. We'll talk about a precision strike in regards to all of that. Unbelievably effective. God bless America. Blake, as always, I'm just thrilled to have you here helping me out and us doing this on this journey together, because so much is happening. Big news day, lots going on. Have fun, Don Lemon. We'll see if he Jussie Smollett's his way out in 2 hours or whether there'll be any real consequences. And the election, the FBI into Georgia. Look out, Georgia. Trouble's coming your way. And then the Epstein files. There you go. You're always crying about your Epstein files, leftists. There you go. And you can quote all the bullshit lines in the Epstein files about Trump that were discredited. And like I say, you're up against kryptonite with us MAGA people. We've seen it all. We've been hit with everything. You just it doesn't faze us anymore. Say whatever the hell you want. We don't even take you seriously anymore. You got nothing. And we hope truth, justice, the American way will prevail ultimately. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. Thumbs up and share the thing on your social media and all that good stuff. And we will see you on Tuesday. So have a good weekend, Blake. Have a great weekend.
Great. Thank you. You too.
All right, buddy. Let's